Welcome back, CGI U 2011 UC San Diego. I'm joined by Robert Palacios. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Robert has a bit of a CGI U story. We just recently spoke with the mayor of Juarez, or the former mayor of Juarez, Jose Reyes Feriz. And I know that you met him a little while back, and that sort of helped inspire you to do the commitment that you're doing. Can you tell us that story?
Oh, of course. It got started, I guess, last semester. I'm one of the co-directors of La Alianza Latina, the Latino student organization at Oberlin. And I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. My parents are originally from Mexico. So I both, have family roots in the country of Mexico, and then living in El Paso, I've gotten to know a lot of people who live in Juarez, who have family and friends living in Juarez, so kind of made connections in that city as well. So really when things started to get really bad in Juarez in 2008 and especially in 2009, and then even worse in 2010, I really wanted to do something on at Oberlin to raise awareness, of what was happening there, because I had found that not a lot of people really knew. Maybe they knew of Juarez, they knew about northern Mexico, but they didn't really know the extent of what was happening or why or any of that. So by that time, I was already really involved with La Alianza, and I kind of talked to some of the other members, and we decided to bring a guest speaker from Juarez to come to Oberlin. So I kind of took charge of that project. I started sending out some emails to some different people. I wasn't really sure who I wanted to bring at that time, and then I had a contact back in Texas who said, you can maybe think about bringing a professor or something, but really, if you want someone who's going to draw a lot more attention, you should probably think about bringing someone more high profile. I have the contact info for the deputy mayor of Juarez, or now the former deputy mayor of Juarez, and maybe you can talk to him about bringing the mayor. So I did. I got in contact with the deputy mayor, and really didn't expect to hear much back from him. I thought, well, this mayor, I had seen him, all over the news, CNN, NPR, New York Times, all the big Spanish language media. So I thought, he probably won't.
Too much of a big shot.
It's too much of it to come to some little, 2,500 student college in the middle of Ohio. So I didn't really think anything was going to happen. But then, a couple days later, I hear back from the deputy mayor, and he says, I talked to the mayor, and he was really interested in coming to speak at Oberlin. So I'll put you guys in contact with each other, and maybe you can work something out. So we exchanged some emails back and forth, Mayor Reyes, or former Mayor Reyes, and I. And he said, I'd really be interested in coming to Oberlin. I'd just like for you to meet with me at my office, just so we can kind of work out the details. So the next time that I was in El Paso that summer, I went over to Juarez to meet with him in his office, and we kind of talked about the details of the trip. And then that September, which is last September, he came to Oberlin and gave a speech about the border issues and what he at the time was doing to combat the violence and the drug trafficking. And
was that right after he left office?
That was right before he left office, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he left office in the beginning of October, and this is in the end of September. So it was in the last couple weeks of his term. So there was a lot of interest in Oberlin at that point, about the border issues and about Juarez specifically, and a lot of desire to take action to help with these problems. So at that point, I really decided that I wanted to do something more. It's one thing to just raise awareness, and it's another thing to actually do something that's going to impact the community. So the next step, that's when I started. It didn't have a name at this point. The organization didn't really have a name. It was just I was kind of leading it, and I had a couple of friends and some other Latino students who were interested in helping out. So the next thing that we did on campus was we brought an art show called A Piece of Art. It was designed by some artists in the El Paso Juarez area. They all created artworks that were protesting the violence there, and it had gone all over the U.S., all over Mexico, Central America, and we actually were able to bring it to Oberlin. So that was another thing, that was, I guess, the second thing that we had done to kind of raise awareness, and that was another big success. Both of these events they came out in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the paper in Cleveland, all the Oberlin publications. So from that point, it was kind of getting towards the end of the semester, and then in January, I think I got an email from someone at CGI U saying, we saw the stuff that you've been doing at Oberlin, and we're really interested we want to make the U.S.-Mexico border a big theme in this year's conference, and we saw that you had some connections with the mayor of Juarez, so maybe you want to give us his email address so we can invite him here. And also, it sounds like you've been doing a lot in Oberlin, so maybe you want to make a commitment for CGI U. So I guess at that point I started doing some more research, started talking with the people who had been helping in Oberlin, and decided to launch Operation Esperanza, which is the name of the commitment here for CGI U. And just started getting in contact with a lot of people in El Paso, in Juarez, in the Cleveland area where Oberlin is located, about getting some funding, getting some help. And it's been a really positive response. We've gotten a lot of people who are really interested in helping take action in this area. And so...
And what does the commitment consist of? So what is Operation Esperanza?
Well, Operation Esperanza, the commitment is to fund grassroots community development projects in Juarez, specifically focusing on education. I'm not sure how much Mayor Reyes talked about this, but one of the big problems in Mexico is that you have, well, specifically in Juarez, you have almost 100,000 young people there who aren't working or in school, so they become perfect recruits for the drug cartels. And that's really one of the reasons that, like he's talked about before, why Juarez has been impacted so much more than other communities, because it really grew a lot after NAFTA, but like he's talked about, they didn't have the adequate school systems to support all these people who are moving there. So what we're trying to do is, at first right now, with because of our funds are not large enough right now to do anything like build schools up from the ground up, but focusing on things like giving supplies to after-school programs, helping fund different after-school programs, making reparations to schools, and of course raising awareness right now specifically in the Cleveland area, but hopefully as it grows throughout the region, about the problems that are happening in Juarez, because it's still something that I feel like there are people who don't necessarily know, and of course there's no way that anyone will be able to take action without knowing, and then of course doing things on a more concrete level in Juarez itself to try to help with these educational institutions, help to give young people other options and other than getting involved with the drug cartels like happens oftentimes there.
What do you need to continue your work?
Of course, the main thing is that we really need people to give financial support. We've been really lucky that the Latino community in the Cleveland area, the Oberlin Latino alumni, and then a lot of people in El Paso have been really supportive. But I mean, there's only so much. So definitely, the more partners we can get, the more, whether it's corporate sponsors, ideally, the more people who are interested in helping out with this project, the better we can do, and the more people we can impact.
That's wonderful. When Mayor Reyes was here, we talked a little bit about the fact that you can see the transformation that Colombia made as maybe a road ahead for a city like Juarez, and as being hopeful for the fact that Juarez might have a bright future many years down the line. And it sounds like the work you're doing is going to play into that. Right,
hopefully so. I mean, I know that this alone isn't going to change the situation, but as long as, we can impact a certain number of communities, change a certain number of lives, I feel like it will have had some impact. And if other people do the same thing, if we see a larger movement of other people helping the community, I think that, I don't know if it can change anything in a short amount of time, but it can certainly have an impact and begin to make a difference, so that you don't see the same kind of problems in years and years and years in the future.
Well, I think it's a fantastic story, and
Thank you.
I love the fact that you are thinking about the place that you came from, and working on issues that affect those communities.
Right.
And then also just the story between you and the mayor is quite nice as well. So thanks for sharing it.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me, inviting me here today. It's been a great conference, and I'm glad I got the chance to talk a little bit about the commitment and about the story behind it.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.